Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahushai, Brakati Yahweh, Brakati Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Chakudash, double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone with true well. Citations to the hopefully elect out there, you Akim to Sadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. I'm the priest Shaman. This week's topic is going to be entitled Biggest U.S. Banks Collapse Since 2008 Crisis. And for you brothers that are not in the know, just recently you had a USB Bank, a bank in Silicon Valley, California, that hold a lot of money for a lot of startups. It just collapsed. All right, and let me explain what happened with that situation. Pretty much, circa 2020, interest rates, the Fed rates were very low. So what happened was this particular bank bought up a lot of bonds. Now, the way bonds and the rates work is if rates go up, bond prices go down. And when rates are down, the value of bond prices go up. I'm not going to go more in depth than that, but just understand that. And pretty much what these banks did, Silicon Valley, they bought a lot of bonds in 2020. Um, and the bond prices were very high. But since the Feds now kept raising rates, these bond prices have dropped, and they leveraged themselves up with a lot of bonds, and now these bond prices are very low. And pretty much for them to get money, they would have to sell off these bonds at a realized loss, meaning they will lose out on the money. So they put themselves in a predicament. And now we know that the situation is orchestrated, right? The Federal Reserve, all this shit, they've just been collapsing a lot of cryptos, a lot of billions. They said $50 billion was lost in a matter of 24 hours. And I've been doing several lessons like this, with these different falls of these different cryptocurrencies. And now you have these banks. And that what that created was a run on the banks because, people that had their money tied up in these banks, and I'm talking about millions, right? Because these are, business owners, they couldn't withdraw their money because pretty much if everybody withdraw their money at once, you'll find out that their money is not there. All right. And the banks insure up to 250,000, but these people have millions in the bank. Right. And it's gonna be I'm trying to get my money out for everybody's trying to get their money out, and to the point where, the company doesn't have the money because what banks do, they do this. They do something called fractional reserve banking, meaning they could lend out only 10% of what they physically have in the bank. And that would be very lucrative if done right. For example, um, if I only have $10, but I could be a bank and say I got 100, well, I could lend out um $10. Like let's say I only have $10 in the bank, right? But I'm doing fractional reserve banking, so you give me 100. I could then take that $100, split it up in 10, and lend it out to 10 people at 20% interest and make a killing. And that's what banks do. They leverage your money at 20, 30, anywhere from 15% or above, all right? And then give you maybe 1%, 2% to keep your money with the bank. So this is how they make money on these arbitrage trades. But it fucked them over because the value of the bonds went down, interest rates keep going up. They can't, for them to get any sort of liquidity, they'll have to sell at major losses. And this is what caused this particular crisis. And this is the book of Ecclesiastes 5 and 13. It says, there's a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. And that's what happened to a lot of these owners here. It came to their hurt because, the Lord gave them riches, and these different things to create these multi-million-dollar startups. But in the long run, guess what? It just ended up fucking them over. You see? Now let's read this article and we're going to go through a few scriptures. It says the U.S. rushed to seize the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, SVB, and it was several other banks. And we've seen situations now where a lot of these banks, people have their money tied up in banks, and next thing you know, your money is missing. It's happening with Bank of America. It's happening with Wells Fargo, where you have your money in that bank account, all right, and all of a sudden it's gone. You see, so this is why this is going to cause more and more people to trust banks less, which again, if you want to be deep, all right, this could also very well be orchestrated to what? To push towards a digital currency to say, okay, it's more safer if we have, central bank digital currency. All right. CBC, I believe. All right. It says CBDC, central bank digital currency. CBDC, right? It says the U.S. rush to see, which CBDC is ultimately going to lead into the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast, pursuant to the book of Revelations, the 13th chapter and the 16th verse on down. It says the U.S. rushed to seize the assets of Silicon Valley Bank today after it experienced a run on the bank, the largest failure of a financial institution since Washington Mutual during the height of the financial crisis more than a decade ago. Right, and that what happened with that particular situation was these guys was issuing out subprime loans. So when it comes to it, a lot of these crashes and major fuck ups happen because people leverage out a lot of money, more money than they could pay back, and then it catches up to them. That's the crux of it, you know. Proverbs 23:5. Will thou set thine eyes upon that which is not? For riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away as an eagle towards heaven. And it happens even more so with digital currency. That's the shit with digital currency. You know, it's like a fucking light switch. You could just turn it off. At least if you had your money in like tangible cash, like paper currency, at least it's there. You know, it won't just fucking vanish. These people had their money wrapped up in digital currencies. You see? You physically have to get trucks and shit like that to move billions of dollars, you know? But with digital currency, you could transfer it, move it around and shit. And you people out there that thought your crypto was safe, well, you know, it shows that they could seize your crypto. So they could seize your money and your digital assets at any time. But at least if you have like, you know, $1 million stashed away in some foreign country somewhere, you could always go there and shit. Or even better yet, gold, which holds its value amongst any other currency. See? But these people out here, they got screwed, man. You got a lot of people that, like right now, they just lost their homes. They lost everything. You know, imagine you had $20 million tied up into this bank. You didn't, you're not a believer in cash. But you know, honestly, people like this typically are well diversified in other things. But still, this is gonna hurt you really bad. See? But it says riches make themselves. It says for riches certainly make themselves wings. They fly away. Yeah, because riches could come and go very easily. That's how come it's important to store up the spiritual riches, because that will last with you until you die, man. All right. The scripture says their works do follow them. Men that have passed away in this truth. All right. They didn't take none of the materialistic things they had, but the fact that they died in the truth, that's their virtue. And that will make them rise first in the kingdom of heaven on the chariots. Silicon Valley, the nation's 16th largest bank, failed after depositors, mostly technology workers and venture capital backed companies, hurried to withdraw money this week as anxiety over the bank's balance sheet spread. Right, their balance sheet was fucked up because, again, the bonds that they invested so much in and put all the money in, people's money in, tanked. It tanked. If you look at the stock, SVB stock, that shit was trading at 300 something dollars. And now it went down to 30. That's like a 90% fall, man. 90% of your wealth just evaporated. You see? So, and then you can't get any cash because if you're down 90% and you need money now, you have to sell and realize that 90% loss. It says it is the second biggest bank failure in history behind Washington Mutual. And it will look really bad on the Federal Reserve or the government to bail these banks out. So they're gonna pretty much go bankrupt, man. You know, and that's people that had jobs. Here it is, you had like a fucking 6-figure job, and you know you think you're on top of the world. Next thing you know, you're going under. A good movie to watch is that movie Fun with Dick and Jane with Jim Carrey, and it showed you like it was sort of based on Enron, a company called Enron, which manipulated balance sheet, had the company stock go all the way up, but really they didn't have true liquidity, money, and all the profits. It was all corruption, and people got burned, man. People that had their everything, their house, their mortgage, everything tied up into this particular company just to find out it was all a hoax, and a lot of people get burned and wiped out. That's what it's like when you're dealing with this wicked ass society, man. Proverbs 27:24, for riches are not forever. Right? These riches, the worldly riches aren't forever. The spiritual riches are, but these worldly riches are not forever. You could lose it all at any time. It says, and doth not the crown endure, and doth the crown endure to every generation? Right. Does the crown endure to every generation? So this concept of generational wealth isn't always accurate. You know? Just because you're rich one generation and you know you've been rich your previous generation, the Lord could have anything happen. Think about it like this, man. These Hamites that you see over there with the flies on their eyes and the big bellies, Many generations ago, they were on top of the world. You see? One rulership passed to the next. Now, you might have some families that still remain rich from previous generations, but a lot of time, once a new ruler come in, they cutting off the old rulers, putting their ass to death. It says in 2000, think about this too. Israel was once on top of the world. Every nation at one point or another was on top of the world, but guess what? Crowns are translated from one to the next due to wickedness. You see? Read one more. This is Matthew 16:19. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth. Right. And that's what they were doing. They was laying for themselves treasures upon earth. Look, we always tell brothers, you hustle, you could grind, make your money, stash money if needs be, but always come to the understanding and realization that this shit could go at any moment, which we understand. So at the present time, we do what we got to do to navigate through this world, you know. But don't wrap yourself up in these riches because they could go at any fucking moment. The house you have, the car you have, the bank account you have, that shit could evaporate at any other second. The thing is, it caught these people off guard, but our minds are prepped for these things, man. Because we know, according to prophecies, that will eventually happen. It says in 2007, let me finish the scriptures actually. It says, lay not up yourselves for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. And that's what happened. These people got their money robbed. And you think they would have learned not to trust these fucking banks. But they did it. In 2007, because remember, at the end of the day, the FDIC only insures up to what, 250,000. So you put in more than that, they're not gonna cover your whole shit. You put 10 million, and you're only gonna get 250K back. So you gotta diversify, and a lot of times not own a lot of shit, man. Cause that's more shit to lose. Anyways, though, it says in 2007, the biggest financial crisis. When I say own things, I mean like, some of these billionaires, they own like mega yachts and shit like that. I'm not talking about you owning your house, man. I'm just trying to scale it up to like stuff that they could possibly own. It says in 2007, the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression rippled across the globe after mortgage-backed securities tied to ill-advised housing loans rippled from the U.S. to Asia and Europe. Right? See, because look, in 2020, interest rates were dirt cheap. That's how come the prices of homes were so expensive. The shit was being bid up because everybody wanted to buy homes with these low rates. Now that interest rates are going up, you'll see the value of the prices of homes are going down. You see? And rates can't be low forever. The same way they can't go up forever, they can't be low forever. But I guess these people weren't thinking that. I think they was thinking this shit was going to be down for a very long time. But that's why you got to protect yourself. You got to hedge yourself. It says the panic on Wall Street led to the collapse of the storied Lehman Brothers, founded in 1847, because major banks and executive exposure to one and another. It led to a cascading disruption throughout the global financial system, putting millions out of work. Yeah, so that hurt a lot of people. It says, however, there has been unease in the banking sector all week, and the collapse of Silicon Valley pushed shares of almost all financial institutions lower today. Yeah, a lot of bank stocks, they were down, man, except for like JP Morgan, but a majority of these bank stocks, they're down big. It says shares that had already tumbled by double digits since Tuesday. Silicon Valley's bank failure arrived with incredible speed. And that's one thing, like when things fall, they fall quickly. It's slowly to go up, but when they fall rapidly. With some industry analysts today suggesting it was good company and still likely a wise investment. Silicon Valley is seen like Scarsdale or the Hamptons, it's people with a lot of money over there. So I'm sure they was trusting in all that factor, like, yo, this is Silicon Valley, there's mad money, nothing could happen. But boom. Just like that. See, that's why the Mosai is in control. The Mosai is the one that makes poor rich and control monetary systems and everything. Even if you want to say it's orchestrated by Esau, but who's controlling Esau? The Most High. He's the ultimate puppeteer. 1 Timothy 6:17. It says, charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded. And that's what I was just saying. These motherfuckers got proud. We in Silicon Valley. We got Silicon. None of this shit could happen. A lot of like these crypto dudes, man, we made billions. I can't just lose $1 billion. And you saw with FTX, 32 billion vanished. Boom. Right overnight. Now in this scenario, 50 billion. But they like, man, we got billions of dollars. They can't shit happen to us. Nope. Mosai can still humble your ass. Now a lot of these people are homeless. They're gonna be out of homes, man. All right, because they probably can't keep up with the payments now. A lot of that shit's gonna cause a lot of stress. A lot of Edomites gonna jump out of roofs, you know. And more of this shit is coming, according to the scriptures. It says, "Nor trust in the uncertain riches, but in the living." That's what we put our trust in, the living power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. At the end of the day, He's the one that's gonna give us our daily bread. You could lose your fucking high-paying job at any goddamn moment, man. Most I could have anything happen. See? It says, "But in the living power, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy." Right. So again, hey, that's how come the scriptures tell you, above the riches is a good body, right? And what did Peter do to the man that was disabled? He said, "I don't got money or nothing like that, but in the name of Yahweh shall rise." So your faith could go far, far greater than money, man. You see, King Solomon had all the money. He said what? He said, all that shit is vanity. The purpose we put on this earth is to fear the Most High and keep His commandments. And that's a man that had true riches like gold, silver, human beings as slaves. Everything. Everything a man could set his heart on and desire in terms of riches and status and everything, he had it. And he said, all that shit is fucking vanity, man. We just put here to serve the Lord. That's it. It says, let me get more into this article. It says, however, trading in the bank shares was halted before the opening bell due to extreme volatility. Shortly before noon Eastern, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation moved to shutter the bank. Notably, the FDIC did not wait until the close of business to seize the bank. As is typical in an orderly wind down of financial institutions, the FDIC could not immediately find a buyer for the bank's assets. Nobody wanted to buy that shit. Signaling, why did they want to buy it? Why would you want to buy? Why didn't they want to buy their assets? Because they had bonds. They bought bonds at, let's say they bought bonds at 3%. Why would I pay for your bonds at 3% when I could get bonds that's yielding me 7%, 10%, yielding me more money for less? So that's what fucked them. It says, signaling how fast depositors has cashed out, the bank's remaining uninsured deposits will now be locked up in receivership. The bank had 209 billion in total assets at the time of failure. The FDIC said it was unclear how much of its deposit were above 250,000 insurance limit at the moment, but previous regulatory reports showed that much of Silicon Valley's deposit exceeded that limit. Exactly. So remember, 250K is what you're insured up. But a lot of the people in Silicon Valley have way more than that. The FDIC can't cover that. They can't. The FDIC said Friday that deposits below the 250,000 limit would be available Monday. So, yeah, you could get the 250K if you made that deposit. But those ones that have millions, forget about it. It says Silicon Valley Bank still appeared stable this year, but yesterday it announced plans to raise up to 1.7 billion in order to strengthen its capital position. That sent investors scurrying and shares plummet. Yeah, because for them to try to raise this sort of money, they would have to sell off a lot of assets. And if you're invested in this company, that means the stock price will have to go on because they'll have to sell off stock to create liquidity. So you're like, man, I'm not gonna fucking let them sell off their stock at $300 and bring it down to 60. I'm gonna sell my shares at 60, and then everybody snowballs in, and it just cascades down and down. You know, that's an investor scurrying and shares plummet 60%. By the way, a lot of these people that worked in this company sold off the stock before the shit even went down. So insider trading does go on. It says they rocketed lower again today before the opening of the Nasdaq, where it's traded. As its name implied, Silicon Valley Bank was a major financial conduit between the technology sector, its founders and startups, as well as its workers. Hundreds of companies held their operating capital with the bank. See what I'm saying? Not just, because if you work there, you're like, man, I work for a good company. Let me buy stocks here. We doing good. Next thing you know, the company's going bankrupt. It says, and it was seen as good business sense to develop a relationship with Silicon Valley if founders if founder wanted to find new investors or go public. We saw building a relationship with Silicon Valley as a logical step given their reach, said Ashley Trainer, CEO of Farmbox RX, a company that delivers food and medicine to Medicaid and Medicare recipients. While Tyner has money in other banks and can make payroll, she said a good portion of her business profits are now locked up with the bank, so she's gonna get hurt. This is what I'm saying. This affects people in so many ways because this is affect business owners, right? These business owners have employees. Those employees have families. This is what happens when you be very fucking irresponsible, man, with people's assets and thinking about yourself. Because the people at the very top, like they show you in that movie Fun with Dick and Jane, they're gonna get out because they foreseen all this coming. They sold off, they stashed bread, they prepared themselves. But these people at the very bottom, all right, the workers, the people that have to work for these businesses, the people that thought they just, they probably left their job to go to this company because it's a good company. Next thing you know, um, everything is falling apart, and it's not even necessarily at that business owner's fault. He probably thought he had his money in a good trusted bank. It says, but Silicon Valley's connection to the tech sector became a liability rapidly. Technology stocks have been hit hard in the past 18 months after a growth surge during the pandemic and layoffs have spread throughout the industry. At the same time, the bank was hit hard by the Federal Reserve's fight against inflation and an aggressive series of interest rate hikes to cool the economy. And interest rates, so brothers could understand, is pretty much just a price of money. They raise the rates. When they raise the rates, the price of money goes up. If money is more expensive, you're less likely to spend it. If money is cheap, you're spending it. If it's not cheap, you're trying to hold it, and that's what they try to do to curb inflation. It says, as the Fed raised its benchmark interest rates, the value of bonds, typically a stable asset, starts to fall, and that's what happened. It was all tied up in bonds. That it is not typically a problem, as the decline leads to unrealized losses, or losses that are not counted against them when calculating the capital cushion then banks can use should there be a downturn in the future. However, when depositors grow anxious, right, so it wouldn't be a problem if these people that deposit their money weren't running to take it out. But guess what? They're running to take it out. It says, however, when depositors grow anxious and begin withdrawing their money, banks sometimes have to sell those bonds before they mature to cover the exodus. Exactly. Because they trying to tell the people, just wait till the bonds mature, wait till they, but they're not waiting till that shit mature. It says that is exactly what happened to Silicon Valley Bank, which had to sell 21 billion in highly liquid assets to cover the exodus of deposit. It took a $1.8 billion loss on that sale. Turner said she's spoken to several friends who are backed by venture capital. She described those friends as being beside themselves over the bank's failure. Tyner's chief operating officer tried to withdraw her company's funds yesterday, but failed to do so in time. One friend said that they couldn't make payroll today. Damn. And cried when they had to inform 200 employees because of the issue. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? How this hurts a lot of people? 200 employees. Look, man, you're responsible for 200 different employees. Those people have families, man. And when you can't get paid, they have certain bills and stuff. They got to get paid to other people. So this was a rippling snowball effect that hurt a lot of fucking people, man. It says, James 1 and 5, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered. Now, cankered means to rust. And we know that gold and silver cannot oxidize. So it's not talking about actual gold and silver. It's talking about this fiat currency they operate with, this digital currency they operate with, that can rust and corrode and change its value and shit like that. See? Gold is one of the most stablest assets. If Abraham was rich in gold, cattle, over millennia ago, he could come back with those same assets and be rich today. Now, take your fucking billion cryptos and travel back in time and see what would it get you? Nothing. Or this dollar. You see? Because if you had $35,000 in the 1940s, you could buy a lot with that. Could $35,000 buy you a house and shit now? See, so that's why gold that's God's money. That's the Lord's money. true wealth. It says, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you. Yeah, that this system is faulty. And shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have reaped together, you have reaped treasures together for the last days. So-called Edomites reap together all the treasures, you so-called Jews that run the planet Earth. But the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, that's the Israelites, we've reaped your fields. We've um which is of you kept back by fraud, right? So we've done all the plowing. But the scriptures say what in the book of Amos? The plowman shall overtake the reaper. Because the children of Israel, you Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans have built up America, built up all these first world countries by working the jobs that they don't want people to work. But you have not reaped the benefits. A plowman is one who plows the land but never owns it. But the Lord is saying things are going to change to where we're going to start to reap the benefits of all the hard work that we put in. Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Okay? We're the most hardworking. We keep societies going. Who the ones that's driving all the trucks and the buses and shit like that, man? It's Jake. Jake builds societies up, man. It says, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. So the Lord is seeing this shit, man. That's going down. All right? And the Lord is going to destroy all these wealthy Edomites that have took advantage of a lot of people, a lot of Israelites. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on earth, right? So you got these people, jet sailing across the world on yachts at the expense of people that's busting their ass, man. Here it is, you busting your goddamn ass, and let them try to give you a fucking 5K raise to your salary. You'll fight tooth and nail for you to get a 2K raise. But guess what? You working for a corporation that's making billions of dollars, and that's the fucking greed and wickedness that goes on in this place. It says, ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and been wanton, yet which is undisciplined. And this was some very undisciplined shit these people are doing up here that fucked a lot of people over. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and doth not resist you. So at the end of the day, a lot of people that's trusting themselves in these riches and shit like that. Look, it's all orchestrated. That's one. This was all planned. Okay, this collapse and everything was all set up by the least, but really the Most High was behind that. And it expose the faultiness in this banking system, this crypto system, the digital currency system. So what? So they could come up with a solution, which is a chip. Which even that is even really more control. This dude said when you give up your security for liberty, you end up losing both. So hey man, another big crash. A lot of people lost out. This is the judgment of the Lord, and expect more of these things to happen. With that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Kodash, the blessings of the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole field elect out there, you Akim, there's a Dakim that do this thing in that most truth and sincerity. Shalom.